We got a crowd of 2, 4. I'm bad at math. All right, well, good afternoon. My name's Christian Allen. I'm with Tailor-Made Pest Control. And today's session is about eradicating pests in your facilities. So I've been in business for a year now, and but I've been doing pest control for 10. I worked for another smaller company here locally in Louisville. I got my best friend that helps me sometimes, James. He's the owner of Derby City Poop Scoop. Also got my office admin you've met at the booth. Her name's Sarah, and she helps me schedule things and keeps me on track with everything. So that's helped. And then my wife, couldn't do without her. I maybe could, but I wouldn't want to. So what's Tailor-Made about? A little bit about the company. I founded the company based off of taking the time and actually taking care of pests. You know, you get all these companies that come in, spray, and get out. Not really taking the time and trying to figure out what the problem is, what you got going on, and taking the correct actions to take care of the pests you got. And so that's how Tailor-Made came. It's about tailoring services to your pest problems and your facilities. So my last name's not Taylor. I have nothing to do with the golf company everybody asks me about. I'm horrible at golf. I might need to take it up now that I have Tailor-Made. But yeah, so today we're talking about the topic today was eradicating pest control. But as you can see, we crossed out eradicating with controlling, because it's not about just eliminating or eradicating the pests. Because if that's it, then I come in, do one service, and be done with it. But in reality, you get rodents, you get flies, you get roaches. More than likely, we can take care of what you have already, but now it's also about the process of managing it so you don't have them again and they don't become an infestation again. It's, a two-step process. You eliminate them and you maintain it. Without one, you're going to have bugs. Whether we kill them and then they come back and you might be mad because, well, a year later, all of our stuff's gone. And you guys didn't take any corrective actions to take care of them. So we're not going to be talking about eradication. We're going to be talking about control. So you may ask, what is pest control? This is a handy air compressed sprayer. Most everybody thinks this is pest control, including people in pest control. They think it's just going around with your little can and just spraying around baseboards and the outside. Well, this is one tool in the toolbox that we have, but it's not what pest control is. Pest control is pretty much a pillar of three things. You get inspection and proper identification. You have create a game plan for elimination and control, and then you have to execute the game plan. And then monitoring the activity level, remain in constant communication with you, the customer, and also me. That's also important. And then repeat. So those are, legendary coach Vince Lombardi said, football is two things, blocking and tackling. Well, pest control is three things. Without one, your program is going to fail. You're not going to be successful. So you got to have all three things to have a successful pest control program. So the first step is inspection and identification. A famous entomologist around the U.S. is famous as saying, you got to put the bug juice where the bugs are. Well, you can't put the bug juice where the bugs are if you don't know where they are, and you can't use the proper bug juice if you don't know what the bugs are. So the first step is always inspection. You got to inspect, you got to find where the problem is, you got to find the harborage areas. A great example of that, I had a house in Valley Station that had drain flies. And I was there for a year, every month, going and just putting a Band-Aid on the situation. I told them they had a leak somewhere. They didn't want to believe me. And I kept telling them they had plumbers come out, say they couldn't find a leak. They kept having drain flies, kept, being annoyed by it. Well, finally, either the husband or they had another plumbing company come out and they found a leak. And it ended up being like a stream underneath their slab home that just kept it constantly moist. Gunk and mildew and everything was growing underneath the house, and that's why they had drain flies. So the point of it is you can spray all you want. But if you don't identify the source, identify where they're coming in from, doesn't matter what I spray, what I put out, you're always going to have an issue, and it end up just being a band-aid for the situation. So you got to know the source, you got to know where they're coming from, harborage areas, entry points are another big one. We're coming up on fall and winter when rodents are going to be trying to come in to your house, like mice and rats. I know you're having some issues with squirrels, and they've made their own hole. So you got to be able to identify entry points. Generally, rule of thumb is any gap, a quarter inch or larger, is going to be a gap big enough for an animal to either make it bigger for them to get in or actually squeeze in and get through. And that's insects, bugs, rodents, wildlife, you name it, they can find their way in. So that's also part of pest control. And then you got to identify how or why they're coming in. German roaches and bed bugs are notorious hitchhikers. The German roach got their name because they are found on ships going to Germany from Africa. So they're a worldwide pest now, and a big component in restaurants, warehouses that hold food, and that's how they can become a pest in your home or in your facility, because they hitch a ride in a box and then find a way and make your facility or your home their home. So being able to identify that also helps with control, because I can kill what you have, but if you keep bringing me more roaches to kill, you're going to keep seeing roaches to kill, and you're going to think I'm not doing my job when I am. It's just you keep bringing me more to kill, which is fine, keeps me in business. But you're not happy, and you're paying me, or you're going to pay somebody to do it, and you're not going to be happy if you don't get the results. The next one is game plan and execute. The game plan, there's 3 main ways of controlling pests. There's the obvious one with chemical and a sprayer like I have. There's also dust applicators, bait applicators that you've seen at my booth. There's lots of different ways to apply chemical. There's also sanitation and mechanical. So everybody knows chemical. That's why most people call pest control out, is because they think we have the secret potion that takes care of the bugs, when in reality it's just our knowledge of 10, 20, 30 years of doing it. But there's more than one chemical. Like I said, there's dust, there's baits, there's granulars, and there's, well, those are the main ones. So it's about, so after the inspection, you got to know what chemicals to use and why, and then where to put them. And that's part of the game plan, being able to figure out what chemicals to use, where, and why. Sanitation is huge. I've talked to a lot of other professionals around the country, and they wanted me to harp big on sanitation. And I mean, sanitation is huge. You get, flies that breed in. Just had a house that was overran by fruit flies because they had 3 bags of rotten potatoes that had just been sitting there. It had to be for months too, because one of them was just liquefied and it was nasty. And then I know James and I, we had a situation at a homeless shelter where they had donated a huge 50-pound bag of potatoes, dropped it in the pantry, left it, forgot about it, we got called for flies, we found the bag, he helped him move it out, and then the health department came the next day and said they had fly problem. We wonder why. They didn't see the 80-pound bag of potatoes we just took out. But sanitation is huge. If you have a cluttered place, if you have a cluttered home or facility, you will have pests that are going to want it, like rodents. Rodents love clutter. Roaches love filth. If you leave food out, a lot of food in dishes, they're going to eat it, just like rodents. Restaurants are huge. Any place that has food that serves greasy food, restaurants are notorious to have German roach problems. And a lot of time it's because there's this grease that are not cleaned up, and the roaches go through there, and it creates a protective film over top of the roaches that generally protects them from our chemicals and also gives them ample food to eat on and won't eat our bait. It's kind of like if you had a choice between Ruth's Chris Or today we had Little Caesar pizza. I'm sure the Little Caesar's pizza would have been left and everybody would have ate the steak from Ruth's Chris. It's the same way. We got our man-made food that we put in our bait, or if you have hamburger, chicken, grease, that's what the pests are going to go after. If you don't take out the other food sources, they're not going to go after the bait that we have, and you're not going to see the results you need. So sanitation is huge. It should be ahead of chemical, but I put chemical up there first because everybody knows chemical. That's what people think pest control is, but in reality, sanitation is by far the most important aspect of pest control. And then you have mechanical. And people don't think mechanical is pest control, but it is. If you physically remove the bugs, so on roach and bed bug jobs, we generally use a vacuum before we start spraying because that's instant pest control. You vacuum up 1,000 bed bugs, there's 1,000 less bed bugs there. There might be another 500 left, but that's what we're going to kill with the chemical. Also, it's exclusion work. As with squirrels, we're going to trap out the squirrels, and then either you or us will seal up the hole. There's lots of different materials out there, from color matching metal to actually fixing it with the proper wood and trim and all that. But like I said before, any hole about 1/4 inch or larger should be sealed. And that includes around the fascia board, the roofer's crack that's left around gutters should be sealed up. Weep holes are another area. And while you might not use caulk or foam to seal up those things so it can still breathe, there's other options out there. I've got this little piece here. It is pest block, but it has little holes that allow air to get through, but insects and critters can't chew and make their way through. So there's a lot of options out there to take in consideration what the building needs, but then also to keep the bugs out. If we can keep the bugs and pests and animals out, then we can use less chemicals to control your pests, which is better for the environment. So, yep, we got that. The next step is monitor the activity level. The first step is with chemical or mechanical, we eliminate the pests. After we eliminate, like I said, it's not just about eliminating the pests, it's about also maintaining that so you don't have an issue, in the future. And monitoring is key because, if you live at your house, you're there all the time, unless you're at work. Same thing at your facilities where you guys work at. You guys are there on a daily basis. Generally for pest control, we're at your place once a month, maybe once every couple months. So it's impossible for me to know exactly what you have going on. So we monitor your activity level with different tools that we have in our toolbox. We have glue boards, as probably everybody knows what they are, that work great for rodents and also insects. Having glue boards out in places where critters will want to be is very crucial and handy in pest control. If there's a lot of information you can get from catching a pest on a glue board. You can get what life cycle of the pest that they're in, whether it's a nymph, whether it's an adult. You can also tell maybe where exactly they're going to be at. If we catch a rodent or a roach over here and he's facing this way, well, there's a good chance that we know the roach is over on the right-hand side. So we can start looking to see where the bugs are to take care of that problem, so we can stay ahead of a big infestation. There's also pheromone traps that are used in processing plant facilities that are useful. They mimic the sex pheromones of pests like Indian meal moths to trick them to come to the trap and get caught. And so that's a way we can see if there's an infested pallet, an infested box or a bag of food. Being able to catch that will alert us of what pests you may have. There's also, at our booth, we have a tin cat, which is a metal box that has a glue board in there. You can catch multiple mice, multiple pests at one time. And again, it's just a glue board inside that catches them and won't let them out, but it can tell us a great deal of information to help you stay pest free. So that's step through 2. And then next is remain in constant communication. It is important for you to communicate with your pest management professional to let us know what you're seeing. Again, I'm not on your property every day. Generally once a month, once every couple months. So if you don't tell us what you got going on, then there's no way for me to know until I visit and do a thorough inspection. So at commercial facilities, restaurants, hotels, even apartment complexes, having a pest log like we have there is super handy. We've done a few nursing facilities that there's just a binder that they have at the front desk, and they give us the time, the date, location, what pests they think they saw, who saw it, so we know who to talk to. And then there will also be a spot for me to fill out saying, hey, we took care of it and this is what we did to take care of them. Having a log like that is just an easy way, and is a documentation. It's on paper telling us what kind of pests we have at your facility, and then also will tell you what we've done so you don't have them again, or what corrective actions that we took. But we're in 2022. You got a cell phone. Texting is great. I love when people text me, because you can text me what's going on with your place, and I might be on a roof or in a crawl space and can't answer you right away. I can answer you when I'm done. And it's also written down, so it's another piece of documentation that you told us what you got going on, and we can have that on file to know and to prepare for next year what type of pests you might be having. Again, you can call us, you can email us. There's lots of ways to communicate. So it's important for you to communicate with your professional, and it's also important for us to communicate to you what we're doing. Anytime you have a pest control service, even at your home or business, you should have a report that's either emailed to you or given, paper copy, saying what chemicals we use, so that you can look it up online and see what was used on your property. And it tells you what we've done. I've been notorious to write a book on my report saying, step by step. So if a state inspector wanted to come and inspect my property, I could walk them through step by step of what I did, what I found, and then what actions were taken to eradicate the problem. And that helps you knowing what's going on. It helps a future technician know. On a bigger company, you're going to have multiple technicians at one spot, then they're not going to be there every time. So being able for a new tech to come in and see what's been done will help maintain that pest control barrier so you don't have any pests. And it also protects you and me, or the professional, if a state inspector wants to come and audit the place and try to fine you for something that's already been taken care of. Document, document, document's huge. And then the last step that nobody likes to do, and it does make us money, but it doesn't only make us money, but it also helps keep your facility clean, pest-free, is repeat. You go back through inspection, you go back through proper identification, you create the game plan and execute it, monitor activity level, and remain in constant contact with the customer and the professional. Just re-inspecting the place, so on a regular scheduled basis, whether it's monthly, every other month, quarterly, having somebody out that's going to take a look around on the outside, the inside, be able to point things out to you like, hey, you got a little crack that's becoming a big crack that needs to be taken care of, or hey, you have some potatoes rotting in the corner here, let's get rid of it. Things that you don't necessarily look for while you're at your place, home or business. Is good to have a second set of eyes to come in and tell you, hey, these things need to be taken care of, and take care of it so we can maintain a pest-free environment. Then we got to put down barriers again on the outside, replace the monitors to keep them fresh, and more bait, keep the bait fresh so we can continue to kill any new pests that try to invade your home or facility. And that's it. So I kept it short and sweet, but I know you guys have already visited my booth, um, so which is great. You've seen all of my tools and everything that we use. I am an open book. Feel free to text or call me. I'm not trying to sell you all the time. I'm not trying to sell you. I get professionals from all over the U.S. that call me or text me and ask me questions, and vice versa. I ask them questions. I have a flea situation at a business that is continually having flea problems. I've reached out to everybody I know to give me tips and everything, so I can help better eliminate their pests. But moral of the story is I'm an open book. If you got a question, call me, text me. I can tell you how to take care of your own pests if you don't want to pay somebody. That's not a problem. I know 80% of the market's DIY, and I'm going after 20%. And of that 20%, I'm probably only going after 10 because, I take my time to take care of your pests. It's kind of like the Cadillac of pest control. There's the Cadillac and the Honda. I try to be the Cadillac, and I get compensated for it. So I'm not for everybody. But you can follow me on all the social medias, Facebook, LinkedIn, Nextdoor. I post ridiculous amount every day, every week. Some people get tired of it. I know he gets tired of it. But I'm here. You can follow the stuff. There's videos. There's of my process through entrepreneurship. There's videos on how to kill pests, blogs on how to kill pests, all sorts of stuff. Funny memes. I try to keep it funny too. And then you can follow my company, Tailor Made Pest Control, on all the social medias as well. So with that, that's it. If you guys have any questions, I'm open to questions. Yes, sir. Not water your yard, honestly, because getting rid of moles is easy. There's two different types. There's baits and traps. I generally prefer to do baits. It seems to be the most effective and cost-efficient way to take care of the problem for you. It looks like, I know you're a fisherman, it looks like a worm that you bait your hook on. I just wouldn't bait. It could kill your fish and maybe poison you. But you bait the runs, you check where the active runs are. They make all these crisscrosses and stuff, and generally where the runs cross is where you want to bait, because one mole could eat 10 of your worms, and you can't be deader than dead. So one worm's going to take care of them. But generally, if you keep your grass watered, nurtured, fertilized, moles love that because I think it's like 90, 95, maybe 98% of their diet is earthworms. And in a well manicured lawn, a lot of earthworms are going to be. So, and that's where the moles are going to be at. So during this drought, there's not many moles. Well, they're still around. They just go deeper. Earthworms go deeper to get to the moist area. And so even in wintertime, they don't hibernate. They just go deeper. So they're year-round pests. But in reality, for us and for most homeowners or businesses, they're a seasonal pest because once it starts getting warmer, then they'll start coming up to the surface, and that's when you're going to see the mounds everywhere, and that's what annoys people. Yeah, it's a lot easier for them. I mean, yeah, they're lazy, just like you and me. If they can easily dig through some moist soil, they're going to do that. And they reuse the runs. So the earthworms get in there and they can eat the earthworms. So that's how it is. But with mole control, it is a program. Most people want a one and done situation. And I have seen that's not very effective because I will kill your moles. Generally, it takes maybe 2 to 3 weeks for me to do it twice. 2 services a week for 2 to 3 weeks. We can eliminate the moles you have, and then 2 to 4 weeks later, they're calling me again because, well, now there's moles again. So it's, people aren't happy to keep paying. So it's a program. Generally, we come out and get rid of them and then come out once a month to stay on top of it. So with like firewood and termites and stuff, termites are a pest. They're a very big pest, and they're a very destructive pest. Yeah, so I have firewood around my house. Yeah, I know that's. I read about that, and my dad was like, "Hey, you gotta be careful about termites." Yeah. Around that, just because I guess they like to get into the wood.
Is there like a spray or something? That how are termites treated?
So there's two different methods of treating termites. There's baits and liquid. Liquids is pretty much you're creating a barrier in the ground where the termites are around your home. And they say that lasts you about 7 years. People have seen it the last 15, 20 years to give you the protection. And then there's also baits that go on the ground. And the baits, it's just a 3-inch diameter station that goes 12 inches or 10 inches deep in the ground. And it's just an active food source for them. It's got the cellulose they need and also the chemical in there to kill them. And so termites are kind of like your finances supposed to be. They got multiple sources of food coming in. So they find your house, they find a tree stump, they find your firewood. They're always searching for new food sources. And so that's how the chemical works, because the chemical is they go through it, they get the chemical on them. It doesn't kill the workers right away. They just go back to the colony, groom each other. And then once they groom each other, then that spreads out through the whole colony and it kills them. It can take a month to 3 months to kill them. Yeah. And then same thing with the baits. The baits are a IGR, and that's just pretty much birth control for insects. It prevents them from molting into the next phase, which kills off the colony. And so both are effective. As far as your wood around your firewood, I would definitely keep that away from your house. It's going to, more than likely, your property has termites. I think they say an average property has like 5 to 10 or more colonies. And it's just a matter of time when they find it. They will find your home. Yeah. It's just a matter of when.
Well, what if I have a lot of fires.
Okay. Yeah.
Like my house. I usually keep, I don't know, what is it, 3 or 4 like ricks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like 5 truckloads. And I don't really have any other places. I like it over against the house, but I will say, could you still do it against your house if you had like a trap? Does that make sense? Or would it just not work because they're always going to trap?
It doesn't really attract them because they're always sending scouts out to find the wood. It's just a matter of once they find it, now they're going to put out pheromones saying, hey, let's come eat this wood because this is a great food source. So now you're just drawing that colony that might have not been drawn really to your house or to your facility, to your house facility. And so generally with wood, I tell people they make racks. And I know, and that's a lot of wood to stack on there. But if you have either that or, if you have like a concrete slab, you can put it on. It's not perfect, but it creates a little bit more hassle for them to get to it. Versus if it's just right on the ground. What you really want to avoid is wood to soil contact. And that's whether it's your siding of the house, you don't want wood touching the soil, and you don't want the firewood really touching the soil. So if you can create like to the house. Oh yeah, they'll eat the siding. Yeah, it doesn't matter. There's a school out in Goshen that's pretty much made of all concrete, and they thought they're, fortified from termites. Well, any builder knows your building, once you build it, is going to shift, and once it shifts, you get cracks, and that's what happened. It shifted, the foundation cracked, termites went up the crack and found the books, book tables and the desks and the bookshelves, and started going to town eating away at that. Really? They'll find anything to eat. Don't care. No, and they'll eat, the back of the drywall is paper, and that's cellulose. They'll eat that. They'll eat books. There's a YouTube video that the National Pest Management Association made about what won't a termite eat, and they threw books in there, they threw wood in there, they threw all sorts of things, and then time lapse that video of a colony going in there and then taking that back down to dirt. They're recyclers, so they think your house is a big tree that needs to be recycled back down. They don't realize you want that there, and you paid a lot of money to have it. So.
Yeah, I like the way that it's not worth it. But I like the way that the firewood looks and everything. It looks good, but if it's gonna end up with termites eating my house up, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's not like a guarantee, but it's almost a guarantee.
Yeah, like at some point.
So at some point, yeah.
Yeah, people have, that was the big thing. Like online, people were like, yeah, like eventually.
Yeah. They will find. And the bad part is, generally you don't know you have termites until you see a swarm. And a swarm is when it looks like Armageddon's happening and the whole world's ending with all the flying termites that are kings and queens to be to start a new colony. But what people don't know is it takes about 2 to 5 years for that colony to mature to at least 60,000 termites to be needing to expand. And I mean, so at that point, if you see a swarm, termites might been at your house for 2 to 5 years. Chewing away. And it does take time. I don't know the exact measurements of how long it takes for them to eat through wood, but I do know I had a house in Crestwood, and 5 years before I went and treated the house, the wife saw the swarm and told the husband, "Hey, we have termites." Husband's like, "Nope, that's ants." Okay, so for 5 years they had a swarm. The wife's like, "I think it's termites." Nope. Well, one day the kid's bike leaned against the wall in the garage and just fell through. So then they're like, "Oh, we have a problem." Ripped out the wall, and the termites went from here pretty much to the ceiling. And that's 5 years that they've known they've been there, but it could have been 7 to 10 years that they've actually had termites, and they just knew 5 years ago. So it takes some time. It's not like if you don't get your house treated, your house is going to fall down. But it's an investment you want to protect.
Well, I mean, I think, yeah. So what do you obviously pricing? But what I was thinking, the way that I had it. Sorry, guys. No.
There's enough time for you to have 5 questions, him to have 5 questions. You have 5 questions.
In the ground.
Uh-huh.
Do you think? I know this sounds goofy, but I'm trying to be specific here. If you separate the firewood from the house like a foot, do you think that would help?
I mean, it's not right up against the foundation, so it would help.
Yeah. And it's sitting up, I'm trying to think.
But remember, you're putting the termites near the vicinity of the house. It's not, so yes, if you had firewood right up against your house, you're creating a bridge from the wood to the house. So having it a foot away would help because now there's not a bridge, but they're still coming towards the house and they will find it quicker.
Right, that makes sense. I was just trying to think okay, if I had those traps in the ground, in that space in between the wood. I'm trying to finagle it so I don't have to move the wood.
I hear you.
And I really just need to move the wood.
I mean, in all reality, your best bet would probably but you're still going to have to move the wood because we can't treat the soil without getting to the foundation.
It's on pebbles, it's on rocks.
Well, they'll go right through the rocks. That's easy. There's lots of cracks for them to go through the wood. Yeah. And what you don't know is, yeah. And they've also said that if they don't like a particular food source, they'll mark it and might leave it and then go keep working on another food source they like. But if food gets scarce in the wintertime, they're going to come and start eating on that. So they're a very interesting creature. They're very fascinating, but they do a lot of damage. So
yeah.
So yeah.
I just made the wood, but I think it'd probably be, I don't know what you charge for the traps or whatever. I don't know if it's a program.
Well, yeah, it's a program. So we'll install the bait stations, and then we'll just come out twice a year to check them, check your house, make sure there's no active termites. If there is,
you go underneath the house.
Yep, if you have crawl space and we get in it, we'll get in the crawl space, check it, make sure there's no active termites. If there is, we don't cover damage, but we cover control. Okay, so.
Problem is I would hate for one to get in and get to the beams.
Yeah, you don't want them to get to the beams. You don't want to get to the floor.
They had to replace, when I bought the place, one of the stipulations was the beam underneath of the house. It was a wood beam. There's either termites or something got to that, and the inspector was like, "That's not stable." So they had to put in a steel, beam underneath there. So, and that cost him a lot of money.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of houses. I've done a lot of houses down in the West End in Old Louisville, and there's been a lot of really, structurally unsound properties that had to be age of the house. Wood rot, water caused a lot of damage. But I was going to say with the pebbles, that's actually worse. Pebbles and mulch, because you're keeping that ground constantly moist. And that's what termites love. They need moisture and they need humidity because they don't have an exoskeleton around their bodies. So they need constant water and they need constant humidity to keep them moist so they can continue to function. That's why they build the mud tubes to shelter them also from sunlight, because they're blind and they will dry up quickly. But then also they need that moisture they'll take from the mud and continue to keep working on your house.
What an
So
interesting creature. Seriously.
they are very interesting. So having it on Pebble is moisture, food.
Right.
And it's like the 1-2 punch for having termites.
Yeah, I'll have to see about the pricing. Maybe get you out to look at the squirrels and
Yeah.
termites.
We can take care of you. We'll give you a little discount for having both. But yeah. Do you have any questions, sir?
Mine is basically that
Okay.
in the Family Life Center.
Yeah. Well, we can definitely, I can get with you and do an inspection. Like I was saying now, it's a little bit late to do anything for bats because they're going to start hibernating here pretty soon. I did a bad job last week or 2 weeks ago, last week. And that's probably going to be the last bad job I'm going to do for the year. Just because once temperatures start getting below 40, there's really no bugs for them to eat, and they're not going to come out. So either it's going to be a suicide, like it'll be suicide for them to go out, because then I'll exclude them out and then they can't get back out. So it's a death sentence, one. And they're protected, federally protected animal. And then two, if I did seal it up, I had another pest control company tell me a long time ago they actually didn't really seal up bats. And then they had to unseal it to let them back out, to then seal it back up so they can't get back in. So at this point, we're probably at the end of bat season. So it'd be like March or April before we do anything with bats. But I can do an inspection now, tell you what you got and what you're probably looking at price-wise. But you have to get before May, because May 15th, again, they're federally protected. So from May 15th, I think it is, to August 15th, you can't touch them because that's breeding and mating season for bats. And they don't want you to let the adults out, but then the babies are going to die in the walls, and they don't want that. So you can't do anything from May 15th to August 15th. And then at August 15th, there's a mad rush to get all these companies out here to do bat work because they've been having bats for months now, and no company would touch them because they're federally protected. And then you have from August to when it starts getting cold, and then you have when it starts getting warmed up to May. It makes for wildlife companies a really difficult window to do, because you get all these people that want it done and they want it done now. And I think the law says like up to 15 bats I could remove during the period. I'm not counting the bats, and nor do I want to move 15 bats out and then there's a 16th bat that's going to, it'd be hard to prove it, but you don't want the state breathing down your neck. So that's a bad, yeah. And, they are fairly protected. So, they are protected from being handled, unless you're licensed and permitted. And, there's a specific time when they can and can't be taken care of. And the state's very particular on that because they don't want them. They're important for the ecosystem. They eat a lot of bugs. And so they don't want them extinct. So, yeah.
I know about
They love mosquitoes.
Right.
And bats are great money makers for wildlife companies, because it's horrible, and I feel really bad for people. But I see it all the time. They're like, "Oh yeah, we have bats now," and our neighbors have been saying they've been having bats. This one over here across the street had some bats. This neighbor over here had some bats. Well, now I guess it's my turn, and it is kind of your turn, because if your home has any gap, you got to think of bats. It's like mice with wings. So any gap that they can squeeze into, generally a quarter inch or larger, they're going to exploit and use. And so if Mrs. Jones seals up her house and Bobby across the street seals up his house, well, now the Johnsons are going to have bats because the bats need someplace to go, and they like houses. And, houses mimic like a nook in a tree or a cave, and so it gives them a place to rest. And the good news is you don't have mosquitoes. I ask people all the time when they have bats, have you noticed any mosquitoes? Well, actually, mosquitoes used to be really bad until a couple years ago. Well, yeah, you've had bats.
What do bats do to the
They don't do damage. Their poop does damage. So their poop, now I think it takes a lot of poop, a lot of guano to be a health hazard. but it is a health hazard. So you don't want it in your attic. They can get into walls and they can stink up the place because they have grease on their bodies.
I have a lot of mosquitoes that I can just move them in for like a couple months.
Yeah. Well, they make bat houses. So that's, you want bats around, but if you put up bat houses, you only want to make sure your house is secured.
Yeah. Don't have a hole.
Don't have a hole this big says, Batman, please come to my house.
Once I get that hole sealed up, I might put mosquitoes. Well, right now it's not bad.
Yeah.
In my backyard.
Well, we take care of mosquitoes, but mosquitoes is all about source. Generally with flies, and mosquitoes are kind of fly, it's all about source. And if you have any water, it doesn't have to be much, just small. Yeah. And that they're just breeding in them. We have insecto traps that will help create breeding sources for them, and it has a larvicide in there, and it kills the larvae before they pupate. And that's really helped our program with the mosquitoes. I do about 10 or 15 of his poop scooping customers that sign up for a poop and mosquito service, and and they're happy, and it works out well.
I saw a bunch of signs. This Mosquito Joe company.
Yeah.
My parents got it. I don't know much about this.
Yeah.
You do the same process or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents got it, and it just didn't work.
Well, so that's the thing about mosquito work. I like mosquito work. It's easy. It's easy money. But it's very easy for the mosquito program to fail. Again, it goes back to the process of pest control, inspection. You gotta find the sources. And if you have, sitting water, there's things you can do, like I can do, to take that water source and make it into something productive for us. So there's granulars you can put if it's like a man-made, like a bird bath or something, you can put in there, and the mosquitoes will breed in it, but it'll kill them. If it's like a drain or something, there's BTI mosquito dunks that look like a donut, and that's bacteria basically, and it'll kill the larvae. So you can make those negatives into a positive by letting the mosquitoes continue to breed in them, but kill the larvae beforehand. So if you don't take care of the sources, it doesn't matter what spray you do, it doesn't matter how many times you spray, you're always going to have mosquitoes. The other thing I always tell people is use off. I am not a replacement for insect repellent. You're going to have mosquitoes on your property. It's a reduction service. It's something that I tell people, I'm not going to eliminate your mosquitoes. I can't, Terminex has a great commercial that has like this guy standing in front of a white picket fence gate home, and the mosquitoes are all coming, and then they just die because he's there. That's a nice fairy tale, but so you got to set the expectation. That's the other thing. Yeah.
And I can't get onto her property to do anything. It's 10,000 gallons of water. It's just sitting there, and it's just.
So it makes the mosquitoes in your backyard a little bit
horrible. And I treat every 2 weeks in my yard, plus the insecto stations, and they're still.
It helps. It makes it more enjoyable, but you still have a lot.
No, you
got a billion of them in that pond that are breeding and hatching. It's only so much.
And it's a man-made pond. So there's not necessarily, now there's some tadpoles I think in there now that's helped them, but it's not a place for fish to be in because there's a pool.
Yeah.
So
I was on the roof the other day.
Yep.
I was on the roof getting some leaves and stuff off, and I looked back. I hadn't noticed. I lived for 4 years. Well, like there's a fenced-in yard that I can't see anything, but I looked over and there's an absolutely disgusting pool. That'd be why you have a lot of mosquitoes. I mean, that makes sense.
But I mean that, and then I think we also had a place that we did in J-Town that they wanted a mosquito program, but we told them no because their neighbor collects metal and just sheets of metal that sits and collects water, and there's not too much we can do if they're just having piles and piles of metal. That's going to be piles of water buildup. That's going to create.
Is there anything I can throw over the fence into the pool?
You would need a.
We've talked about that.
We're talking about building like a potato gun just for the BTI dunks, so we could shoot it in there. But I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily legal because you can't really technically treat somebody else's property without them wanting it.
Well, what would be bad is if, like, for some stupid reason, they somehow, I don't know how bad that stuff is, if those donuts get in there, somehow that kills a pet or something, you know?
Well, the good thing about the mosquito dunks is it is a bacteria. So we didn't believe it when we first started using it, but we read the label. You can put it in animal watering troughs.
Yeah, they use it like horse
For farms, you know, you can put it in a creek. Like, so, I mean, yeah, I've used it in a koi pond and didn't kill the koi because you got the koi pond, but then you have a place where water is standing. Yeah.
I bet the first time you put it in a koi pond, you're like,
Well, I took about 15 minutes to double check and make sure I wasn't about to kill their $100 fish. $1,500 fish. Yeah.
When I worked for Jefferson County government, and I was a carpenter,
Mm-hmm.
and they opened up what is now known as Mornsley Mormon down on the river.
Yeah.
And it had been abandoned for years and overgrown and everything.
Okay.
And once they opened it up and did some renovating down there, supervisor calls me in the office one day and he goes, they got this huge problem with mosquitoes down there, and they want us to build some bat houses.
So still there today.
I ended up having to do some research, and I had to build 5 of them.
Uh-huh.
And, put the wafers in for different size bats and everything. And we hung them in trees, and within a year and a half, the mosquito problem just dropped drastically.
Yeah.
It's right on the river, so it's not going to drop.
Yeah. No. No, they're a very natural way of killing mosquitoes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we live down that way, and she goes down there once a week. I don't never heard of mosquitoes down there. I never knew how they were keeping rid of them.
Well, now we know the story behind it.
We put bat houses all around that property, and
They don't.
because before they did anything with it, like I said, it was overgrown. It had some guy in a trailer there that was supposed to take care of it. People lived in the house, and they just threw garbage out the back door, and they hauled 3 tandem truckloads of garbage out of the main house, the back of the main house. And we had to go down in the basement in the cellar and put new doors in and everything. And we only saw one snake on the porch that spring that was still cold, so it was still moving slow. But we dug up some snake skins and me and my guy I worked with, both of us were scared of snakes. We see a snake down here, we go.
I don't blame you. I don't deal with snakes too much.
Those bat houses really did work. I was surprised at how
Yeah.
they.
I mean, they were put on the earth for a reason.
Yeah, because I was thinking about
So,
putting one at the church.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
put a
people
bat
tried-
house out there and
Yeah.
keep them out of the
Yeah,
building.
put it out on your property, not on the house. Some people try to do that. I'm like, you're just asking for trouble.
Yeah.
So put it on your property. It definitely.
We got an apartment that you live in, or we got the house that you live in.
Yeah.
Mansion, 1-bedroom apartment.
The other thing they were saying is that you have to put them up high, and then you have to put them where they have a direct flight into them.
Yep.
So we had to find the trees where
Did
they
you
had
hang
the
'em?
direct flight.
You hung them in a tree?
We nailed them to the tree.
Nailed
Yeah.
them to the tree.
Yeah. Well, actually, we took clamps and clamped it around the tree. They're probably down by now.
Well, I was just thinking about.
But now they're in the area.
I
I'm
hope
sure they
so.
replaced them by
I
now.
hope so.
I mean, but even not, the bats will find a way to stay in the area now that they know
I'm
it.
gonna seal my house up totally, and I'm gonna put a bat house and just watch the bats destroy my neighbors.
Just get a whole bunch of bubble wrap and just wrap the house.
Or just build a structure around your house.
Yeah.
All of windows.
What's that stuff they put on the yachts for the winterizing it? The big thing on there, they heat wrap them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One of those in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Heat wrap it up.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. Yeah, you don't I think the thing with the pest control, and this is like this is not a comparison, but like you don't realize how important it is until you have it. You know what I'm saying?
It is, you know.
Care about it's not a big deal, and you have termites, and you're like, this is a big deal.
Well, I mean, he and I talk about it all the time. Like, nobody ever grows up and says, "I want to be a pest control guy." He was in the cable industry, wanted a more 9 to 5 job. I was just 21 years old, wanting a job without a college degree, and now it's my career. He's made a good living out of it, and helped him start his business doing it. It's a great industry. It's
Nobody wakes up and says they're gonna do it.
yeah. Yeah, nobody grows up thinking they want to be a pooper scooper for sure. But I mean, there's $1 million in it at least, and he's getting it.
You're not, when you say poop scoop,
That means exactly what
but I thought it was for dogs,
it is.
but,
It is.
Mine is.
oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I've got 11 people out in the field every day.
About 800 yards a week.
A little over 800 yards a week.
Okay, so you go around to the yard and scoop. Okay. See, and after talking here, I thought maybe went to where raccoons and other animals they got in houses.
No, that's what I do. I just did a nice attic job that, I mean, this place was tore up with raccoons and feces everywhere. We had to remove the poop. We had to use the insulation removal vacuum, and it get clogged every 10 minutes because the poop is too heavy. So then we have to unclog it, pick up as much by hand or dustpan as possible. And then we take a disinfectant, DSV, and we disinfected the whole attic, and we're waiting for the ductwork to be replaced, put new insulation in. So I do that.
Okay.
I do the hard work. He does the easy work. So, but yeah, pest control is people again think pest control is spraying. It's not. It's a lot of knowledge. To have a company, you have to take a 200 question test, written tests, and then 40 identification tests to even be able to own a company. So you gotta know what you're doing. There's a lot of things on the test that I don't use on a daily basis and forgot about probably. Or actually, I know I forgot about a lot of that stuff just to study for the test. But yeah, there's a lot of knowledge involved in taking care of bugs. And then on my standpoint, because before I was working for somebody else, so if I missed something, like, okay, it's on somebody else's dime. Now it's like he and I are like, oh crap, we gotta make sure this is good, because I don't want a house to have hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage that could fall on me because I missed something. So the WDI inspections for homes, for real estate transactions are super important. A lot of people do them for free. I don't. But it's a lot at stake if you're buying a home. So there's a lot involved in it, and it's fun. It's something new every day. It's problem solving.
Pest control is actually a lot of out of the box things.
Yeah.
Every house is built different, every facility is built different, and then just walking in, being in pest control, I just almost sit here and walking into a place, and you've got a puzzle to figure out of just what you're being told. But then you got to put the whole picture together and figure out, okay, what's happened, what's going to happen. Knowing the bugs, the season.
Because people don't tell you the whole story.
Yeah, right.
They just say, I got some.
They're like, yeah, we have roaches, and we ain't bought nothing new recently. They're like, okay, well, what's recently? Because now we find a box full of crap that you got at Goodwill or something, and you're like, well, this might be where it came from. Or people pick up couches and mattresses on the side of the road. Now they have bed bugs. Wonder why.
Yeah.
I drove. There's a desk that I picked up, and it was on the side of the road, and I literally, because it was a nice desk, I picked it up and carried it back to my house like at 8:30. I'm like, I'm the first one here. It was nice, man. So,
well, just check it.
Yeah.
I'm not against getting used furniture, but you have to inspect it.
That if you had bed bugs, it's actually required that you wrap it up or spray paint on it. Like it has to be like cut.
I don't know if it's a regulation, but I know for us, when we've done stuff like that and take stuff to the curb for the homeowner, we would destroy it. We'll take our knife and just cut it.
Somebody would try to take it thinking it's a cow.
Um,
And I was like, well, we could put our business card on there.
I thought,
get more business.
yeah, I thought that it was, and when I was with the government, I became an inspector that had to do lead testing, bug inspecting and everything for the people who we paid rent for. And so I had to go to University of Ohio State and take this bug course of bed bugs and things.
Your skin is crawling through the whole
yeah,
seminar.
Yeah, well, what made it worse was the instructor was telling us, and it made sense once he said it. He said that, you know, to keep the bed bugs alive in order to experiment, that they had to feed them.
Yep.
So he'd come in on Monday morning, he'd put them on his left arm.
Yep.
And let them feed. He said that on Wednesdays, he'd put them on the right arm.
Yep.
And said when they fed on the right arm, the left arm would break out.
Mm-hmm.
And then vice versa, when they fed on this arm would break out.
Yeah, I follow an entomologist, Louis, can't remember his last name, but he's constantly posting videos and pictures, and they're like in this mason jar, and he's put like a plastic wrap over top of the lid that's secured by a rubber band, and just lets them feed. And I'm like, I love bugs. I really don't know. That's dedication. I couldn't let them just feed on me because I'd break out.
Yeah, you was talking about the raccoons.
Yeah.
I don't have the problem. I used to have it in my garage.
Mm-hmm.
Put up a new garage door and everything, but we see raccoons all the time going across the yard,
Mm-hmm.
groundhogs, and everything. So a couple weeks ago, I was outside just at dusk,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew a guy across 2 doors down had a shed that I thought they was living in.
Yeah.
But here they come out, and the people next door to me has a hickory tree.
Yeah.
And I mean, they look just like those 4 of them. They look just like cattle grazing,
Mm-hmm.
eating those hickory nuts. And after they got a fill of them, the guy across the street that feeds cats, he puts all this cat food. So they ate these nuts for about half an hour.
Yeah.
And then I guess it became dinner time because you could see them going across the street.
Yeah, I had an interesting call over the summer. This lady says that she's never had an issue with raccoons, but she's having a big one now, and there's like 6 of them. And she's telling me, yeah, they just come on her porch and, digging in. She's like, yeah, I have a lot of stray cats that I feed. And I just leave food out every day. And I've been doing this for the past 5 years. I'm like, the raccoons know where the food is now, and they're going to come. Well, I'm like, pick up the food. Well, I don't want to do that. The cats are going to go hungry. I'm like, the cats are not going to go hungry. Feed them once a day to keep them around. He was telling me about pest control out in the country, and it was about this general store that new owners decided that they're going to take all the cats away. Well, then they started having mice issues. Well, so they got new cats and did it. Well,
See, our neighborhood, we got a decline. I think people are calling Metro or they're doing something with all the stray cats in our neighborhood. We're starting to get mice now.
Well, Metro won't pick them up.
yeah, Metro won't pick them up because we got in trouble.
They spay them and bring them back.
Yeah, they bring them back.
I know 4 of the cats. I don't see them come back. They're gone. So I don't know.
Somebody's taking it into their own hand illegally
Somebody's doing something in their own-
because in Louisville it's illegal to trap and remove cats.
It is.
It is. There is in the Russell neighborhood, the crawl space is just wide open, and so cats are living underneath. And one of them was renovating and took out the sink, and cats just came out at him. So we went to remove the cats. Well, we didn't know it was illegal. Well, next thing you know, we're getting visited by LMPD and the animal rescue people, and they're like, it's illegal to remove cats. And if we wanted to, we could trap the cats, take it to the shelter. They'll spray and neuter them, clip the ears so they know they've been sprayed and neutered, and then they'd have us take it back to the property to release them.
Well, and that's what
It's
they
like,
told-
what's the point of that?
That's what they've told
So
us,
yeah,
you know, because they come over in our yard, they last year they killed a bunch of my bushes and things.
yep, it's 1:30.
And the best thing they said I could do was to catch them,
Yeah,
bring them in, get them spayed, and take them back. And I'm like, but they're destroying my property, you know?
Yeah.
Well, but you
can't do nothing about it.
like, oh man, that's not, that makes no sense at all. That
We'll leave it
he's
to,
gonna feed them over there.
Yeah.
But they're gonna come over here and destroy my property.